Welcome to First Dates and Soulmates, the podcast that is loving the upstairs, the downstairs, the finger bang on the stairs. I am your host, Nikki McKnight.
And I'm Meg Casewolf.
And on today's episode, we are back with part 2 of season 4 of Bridgerton. Meg, what are your overall thoughts on the second half of this season?
I still appreciated many of the decisions to stick close to the original novel in a way that previous seasons have not done. And there were some points where I was like, oh, that's not the choice I would have made. Mm-hmm. But overall, I think that they did stick the landing.
Nice.
What about
I love
you,
that.
Nikki?
I would agree. Overall, I think they definitely stuck the landing. I think it was one of the strongest seasons, if not the strongest. And if I had not read the book, there are some of the choices they made I would have appreciated, but because I did read the book, I feel slightly robbed of some scenes I wanted in a purely like petty, I'm just nitpicking way. But also there's some decisions that had me scratching my head and going, what, why this? What? Okay, I don't quite get your artistic vision, but you do you. I would not have chosen this. Overall, loved it. I so appreciate Luke Thompson and Yaron Ha this season. I thought they were fucking fabulous.
So good.
So overall, I'm going to call it a strong like overall this.
I'm going to go with like an
season.
8 out of 10.
Yeah, I feel like that would be appropriate. I might give it like an 8.5 if it's going to be nitpicky, because there are a few things. Like the first half of the season for me was like a 9 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple choices they made in the latter half of part 2 that I was like, I'm so sorry. I'm going to have to knock off a couple points for you there.
Yeah.
Some decimal points. But
the Canadian judge only gives you an 8.
No, so I'm so sorry. So where we last left our heroes, we had just had the epic finger bang on the stairs, and Benedict had leaned into Sophie all romantic like, and we're like, and he says the words that every woman longs to hear. Be my mistress.
Be my mistress.
The drama. So we pick back in Bridgerton house, and Sophie's like, yeah, this is not going to work for me. Hey, Violet, there's a new lady, Penwood. Would you write me a letter of introduction? Because I need to get out of here. This is not working for me. At the same time, the theme of mistresses is coming back around, as Penelope has written about Mr. Hiscox. He's the one with the mistress that he introduced to Benedict in a previous episode. And Benedict was like, yeah, that sounds
Mistresses
great.
are great.
They love each other and they get to be together. That's pretty fun. So we've got the new Lady Penwood moving in. We have Hyacinth and her friends practicing at being grown-ups, which I thought was so cute.
So cute. The lemonades.
Yes, Francesca and Michaela's relationship gets a little rocky for a moment for reasons we can all assume. And Benedict is like, I love you. Please do this. He actually kind of speaks his feelings like Mr. Mondrich told him to. And she's like, yeah, dude, I totally love you. And then they bang. And we're like, cool. There's a lot moving here. I do want to highlight for a moment. I talked about this with Benedict, I think in part 1. He gets a little bit wishy-washy. Like I'm trying to find the lady in silver. I'm not. I'm after this. I'm not. Sophie's kind of the same to kick this off. I am leaving the house. I'm not. I'm going back to the country. I'm not. And I get it. Emotional turmoil. Things are happening. But girl, you did, like this. It kind of reads for me the I left, but I expected you to chase me type of vibe. So I got kind of annoyed with them at this point. I was like, shit or get off the pot, guys.
Yeah, especially like the waiting to find out if she was pregnant, and so you're just waiting for 20 minutes of her just like crossing off X's in her diary, and I'm like, this could have been accelerated. And so there were a lot of moments like that where I'm like, if they had not already chosen this is going to be 8 1-hour episodes and we need to stretch it, and therefore we're going to insert some of these other characters and borrow some plots from next books and things like that, I was like, this could have been 6 hours.
Yeah,
this could have been 6 hour longs. This could have been, broken up it could have been 45 minutes each episode, and maybe they would have moved faster. There was just, I felt like the momentum worked for me better in the first half of the season, and by the second half I was like, let's move it along.
See, I think you bring up a good point, and this is something that's being talked about a lot right now, and I think I've mentioned in previous episodes, because seasons are so much shorter now. We don't have 22, 24 episode seasons. We are not used to filler anymore. And not to say filler is bad. There are certain filler episodes, and there are ways that filler could be used in TV shows with great effect for like character development, to go on like a side quest. So I can appreciate filler, but sometimes the filler was repetitive filler. It wasn't like they were going on a side quest, like Sophie and some of the maids go on an adventure in the market. Like that wouldn't have pushed the main storyline forward. So it would technically be considered filler, but it would have been interesting. This, I agree with you. It started to slow things down, and to me it almost affected like the emotional stakes of it, because it wasn't as quick.
Yeah.
And it was like,
and it almost felt like, oh, we just introduced all of these characters, and we need to touch in with each of them every episode. So what's happening with the Queen, and what's happening with the Mondriches? And we haven't seen Penelope in a while. And that was sort of what I felt like the drift was in the previous season, is that they moved too far away from the primary characters. And so this one didn't feel quite as much, because we did have the Francesca and John loss and funeral and grief and working through that. And I think that was a cohesive force in the way of the craft side of things, because everyone came back together, had these sort of revelations about like, life is really short. You don't know how long you have. How does that impact our decision-making process? But at the same time, like, I didn't really need... when you read the book and you're like, the moment in the magistrate's office is the moment where everything comes to a head. I didn't mind that they took that and stretched that into 3 separate scenes and gave us a chance to see the breadcrumbs being laid. We didn't have Posey come in, and it wasn't quite as, it was still an important scene, but it wasn't like the climax of the story in quite the same way. And that worked for me. But it also felt like when they take a scene and they stretch it into 3 scenes, and they're not doing enough like laying of the groundwork to get there, it just sometimes felt like, oh, we're still doing this.
Yeah, I like what you said about breadcrumbs. And that was also really true in episode 5, because that is when Mrs. Wilson and Violet are kind of like, we've already been thinking something's up with Sophie. You know what? She's probably illegitimate. She's probably like, I can see some things going on. Let's kind of maybe do a little bit of investigation, which I really liked how that, like Benedict and Sophie's, Benedict being pushy to Sophie being mirrored by Francesca's pushiness to Michaela in episode 5. Because that is where Francesca, they host a party at their house, and she's like, oh, Michaela, come meet Lord so-and-so. You have so much in common. And he's a bit of a dweeb. He's like, we have so much in common. And Michaela is obviously very uncomfortable. And
so
John is obviously pissed that she has done this. And what I'm guessing is that John knows his cousin isn't straight.
Right.
And he is, I'm kind of like, but John, why did you not tell Francesca? Yeah. Granted, maybe if he had lived past the next episode, that would have been a conversation they had. But if you knew that, a family member of yours had like this secret, and somebody was really pushing up against that, and you love Francesca and you know she's a nice person, like, wouldn't you just tell her? Or have Michaela tell her? Or even have Michaela have some of the subtext that Benedict had with Sophie after they sleep together, when he's like, yeah, women and men.
Right.
Yes. And Sophie's just like, love is love. And I was like, cool, she's accepting. Like, I don't know. It just like, but the pushiness quality there, I did enjoy.
I will say that if we are the product of our environment, what has Francesca seen from Violet? Violet is just always, oh, Eloise, True. You want to be a spinster? Too bad. Either you can watch your sister sessions or you can go on the marriage mart. Those are your choices. So that's what Francesca's grown up seeing. Same with Benedict, where Benedict's like, I don't know if I ever want to get married. And Violet's like, well, too bad, because you have younger siblings and you can't act like that because you're going to impact their marriage prospects, right? So like, although it's possible that Francesca could have been amenable to this conversation around like, she doesn't want to get married, I don't know that she would even think about, she's not, attracted to men. That's not part of her sexuality. I don't know that conversation would have landed well, but she has 2 experiences of, that's what, 25% of her family that are saying, I don't want to get married. And then the experience that she's hearing repeatedly over and over from her mother, who she respects, is too fucking bad. You're getting married.
Yeah. You know what? It's such a great point. I hadn't thought of that. That she is for all that she did go away in like season 1 and part of season 2. I think she went to Bath or to York or something. She was doing piano. She stayed with some relatives, I think, for a while. So she was like away. But I think you're so correct. Like most women of this age, she's fairly sheltered. And because she is in a place of extreme privilege, the Bridgertons being who they are in the ton, she doesn't have to think about the nitty gritty details of shit. It's just like, yeah, you get married. That's such a great point, man. I had not thought of that.
And I think like with Benedict, it's the same thing. That same privilege that gives you an element of not understanding where you live in society. And that was such a huge part of the first half of the season was Benedict not recognizing his own privilege. And in the book especially, it's very much like, well, just make your own decision, free will. And she's like, I don't have the option of free will. I have to feed myself, right? And he doesn't understand that dichotomy there. And so in much the same way, I feel like that was less of a class distinction happening at the second half of the book, because at that point they've said I love you, and then it's much more of Antony saying I should kick you out, and Violet saying, oh, but you love her. And you know, like there the class was still there, but it wasn't always necessarily a conversation between Benedict and Sophie at that point. It was Sophie saying, I can't be seen, I have to be in hiding. You know, like it was a very different conversation in the second half than it was in the first between the two of them, except for right before they slept together, right before he said I love you, and she was like, I can't keep doing this. This is tearing me apart. That to me was, and that was much more emotional than logistical.
Yeah. The push and pull in that first episode I thought was really good, because you also, after Penelope writes about Mr. Hiscox and his mistress, this is another place where Penelope being out as Lady Whistledown does not work for me, because then the mistress, Virginia, comes to her house and is like, you ruined everything. So we see this concept of like external forces kind of killing people's private relationships. In that sense, with Virginia and Mr. Hiscox, it was Whistledown kind of shouting this out, and Mr. Hiscox's family getting involved and being like, no, thou shalt not. In the next episode, in episode 6, that's when Anthony comes back. And I did not like Anthony in this scene. I was like, excuse me, Mr. Hypocrite, that he's like, you shall not, you will not. And even Benedict's like, you had the opera singer. And he's like, I was never serious. And I was like, yes, you were. We saw that you were. You were about to leave your family for her. And also, I've seen this on social. People are like, why is Kate suitable? Kate's related to nobility through her stepmother. She herself is a merchant's daughter. So why is she okay? Is it because she's not a servant? She's just like rich but not noble. So like Anthony kind of like, again, pushing. And I love that Benedict was like, Sophie, here's the life we're going to have. It will be different, but we will have a life. When he draws her the picture of my cottage, which I love every time. Like, I was like, this is fucking adorable. And Sophie's in, but then she overhears Anthony and Benedict. And I get familial pressure pushing you out. I get familial pressure ending relationships, especially like this, to your point, where Violet, society, Anthony, Sophie knows she's the illegitimate child of nobility, so she knows. But at the same time, I was just like, make a fucking decision, please. Like, I cannot, with this wishy-washiness, back and forth.
Yeah.
I need people to say yes or no and move on.
I think that may have been my biggest issue with the second half with these last 4 episodes, is it felt like, and like, they sort of became friends in the first 4 episodes, and then they had the finger bang on the stairs, and then they just leapt into bed together in episode 5, and it felt like then it just hit a stasis point of like, well, let's just wait around and see if you're pregnant. And they didn't talk, and they didn't have a communication about what the next steps were going to be either way, and it just felt like it went into this like holding pattern.
Yeah.
And then the other characters happened, and then, you know, she's leaving, but then she wants to stay for the funeral, but then she loses her job, but then she doesn't get it. And I'm like, you don't think anyone from the old Penwood house is going to talk to people at the new Penwood? Like, in what universe was this a good choice? But that's not what the conversation is that we're having. It was just another one of my, like, this insular society. They're going to see each other. They're going to bump into each other.
Yeah. Episodes 5 and 6 had some amazing moments in them. They were definitely laying more pipe for the ending, because you had Francesca, Michaela, John happening, and I was like, I love these 3. I love them so much. I think all 3 of them are fantastic characters, fantastic actors. Love that. You've got Penelope going to and from Queen Charlotte. Can I retire? No. Can I retire? No. I'm going to retire. Like, come on. You've got Sophie. I love you. We're not together. We love you. Together. Didn't. Like, it's a lot of back and forth, which I get that it's sowing the seeds, but I feel like the seeds have been sown. Can we just go? But this is definitely when we get into episode 6. This is when Araminta does show up to Bridgerton House because Varley, who now works for the Guns, is trying to save her job because Araminta is not a very nice boss. She's like, she works at Bridgerton House. Of course, Araminta and the girls head on over to Bridgerton House. And it's like, But I love how Violet is like wise to the game. And she's like, I don't care if Sophie lied to me. I don't like you.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you shit. I love how everybody's just like, we're not telling Araminta shit. Loved it so much. But she's kind of like saying to Sophie, like, you need to sort your shit out. You need to go. You need to whatever.
And then she doesn't leave for 2 more episodes.
Yeah, a little challenging. But one moment I loved in episode 6.
What?
Cressida's back. I love Cressida Cowper, now Lady Penwood. I love her as a character.
Did you love the reveal too?
Yes, like as soon as I saw
reveal.
Lady Penwood coming out of the carriage with the glove, I was like, Cressida's back.
Oh.
I knew it immediately. I'm like, bright pink and bows. It is Cressida. I knew. Did you see that coming? Like when they kept talking about the new Lady Penwood? Did you see any of that? You're just like, it's going to be a random person.
I'm not as into this as you are. I assume it would be somebody from the past, but I also haven't watched. All I've watched is seasons 3 and 4. I did not watch 1, 2, or Queen Charlotte.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Like,
and I don't feel like so. This is actually kind of funny. I watched, started season 4, watched all the first 6 episodes. And then for some reason my Netflix reset and it took me back to season 1, episode 1. And I was like, wow, the CGI here is great. These kids look so young. How did they do that? These actors. I just thought it was like a flashback moment. And then as soon as I saw Daphne come on screen, I'm like, oh no, this is just season 1, right? Like, yeah, but I was like, oh my God, how did they, that is so realistic. No, they were actually just younger. Oh jeez.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. So this is also at the point in the story where Cressida's come back. She's throwing her ball and the queen is like, fuck that bitch. I'm not going. She's going to be humiliated. And then Penelope decides to use that to say that Whistledown is quitting. I'm done. Thank you so much. Which helps Cressida because now her failure at this ball is not going to be reported on. That was kind of nice for Cressida because I feel like Cressida was very much a victim of her circumstances.
Yeah.
Which is why I like the conversation she has with Eloise in a later episode. But at the same time, I'm like, this is the biggest complaint I had in the first part of the season. People knowing who Whistledown is totally cuts the legs out from underneath Whistledown.
Yeah. And
like
actually,
who gives a shit?
I think they did a really good job with the Hiscox mistress situation of showing not just she's not a wallflower anymore. Mm-hmm. This is something that society already knows. People are coming to tell her that they've seen it. And that's why she's reporting on it because she's almost like shooting a warning shot. To be like, people know, you idiot. Stop doing that. She didn't name names, but everyone knows who it is because they weren't discreet enough. And she's trying to warn them, and then it ends up fucking them over, And so she's in this very difficult situation. I was thrilled that she finally retired. I think she should have retired instead of trying to keep it running. I thought that was a stupid plot line. I think it's just like, oh, we have the queen. We need to use her. What is she going to do? That was basically why they kept Penelope running, is to have something for them to do, but it didn't necessarily advance the plot in any major way, except, oh, he's the diamond this season, which was stupid. I hated all the betting. Like, I've never liked any of that side of it. So, and any inclusion of the queen that is like trying to move across the plot that's already happening, I'm like, we don't need the queen here. The queen can have her own thing. I'm always happier when she's in her own space and like nudging the plot instead of driving the plot. Yeah,
I think I would I love Golda Rosheuvel, who plays Queen Charlotte. I think her and Adjoa Ando, I can't remember the actress's name, who plays Danbury. I almost want them to be like a Greek chorus.
Yes.
Like commenting on the action and being present in their own thing, but not necessarily. Like, are you familiar with Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead?
I am. Vaguely, yeah.
So for those not in the know,
I think you've mentioned it before too.
Yeah. So the point behind the play is that when Rosencrantz and Guildenstern from Hamlet by William Shakespeare, ever heard of him? When they're not with the characters in Hamlet, they are literally nowhere. So they exist in a nothing space, and they kind of like comment on things. They'll come in, say their line within the play, and then like they're off elsewhere, and they're flipping coins, and they're talking about whatever. I think that's the vibe I would have preferred a little bit more with Danbury, and like Danbury to a lesser extent, but the Queen for sure, because she is a big figure. She's more, for me, like a representation of societal expectation and like people having to like not speak truth, because you wouldn't speak truth to a ruler.
Right.
You're like, of course, Your Majesty. Yes, Your Majesty. You have to be a yes man or yes person when you're with the Queen. So to your point, I love her so much. I don't want her as involved in the action. I want her to comment on it and drive it, but not through direct involvement. That would be way more satisfying to me.
Yes. And I think that's where I'm coming down, is like, do I want to see the Queen? Do I want to see Danbury? Yes, I think those actors are incredible. However, I don't want her decisions to be the thing that makes the plot move forward.
Mm-hmm. I want the character to the other characters to make those decisions.
I want the protagonist of the story to be the reason that it's happening, or some sort of external event that doesn't. Because as soon as you get monarchy involved, it becomes this Deus ex machina situation, and like, oh, the Queen is going to the Queen will make it okay for us to be together. She will give a positive spin on our union, and nobody will say anything if the Queen does anything. And it just takes away. It either raises the stakes unnecessarily, or it takes away the stakes that like they've spent all this time building out. You know, for example, they've spent all this time building out. Oh, they can't be together. He's nobility. She's a maid. Oh, but the Queen could make it okay. You know, like it sort of washes out the conflict and puts in unnecessary, like the bet about will Benedict get married this year, did not give a crap about that. It was it added stakes that meant nothing. Oh, well, now you're gonna win the bet for no reason with somebody who didn't even want to join it with you. You know, like it felt unnecessary. And I feel like that character, the most interesting conversations and the most interesting action that she had all season was the choice not to let Lady Danbury travel, was the choice to hold on to her friend. And that was so much more interesting to me than any of her like, oh, I love gossip. Like, I just didn't care for it.
Yeah. I like that you say like the holding on, because holding on and letting go, I think, are just a major theme this season. Holding on to expectations, holding on to people, holding on to relationships. Because in episode 6 as well is when Marcus proposes to Violet, which I fucking loved. And I also loved how that resolved. I was a huge fan of this storyline. And that's the episode where Charlotte does give Danbury permission to leave, which is setting up Hyacinth's storyline. Because little sneak peek fans, Lady Danbury goes home. Now in the book, she doesn't go back to Sierra Leone because all the characters are white. So she just kind of goes to the English countryside. But in this storyline, she goes home to Sierra Leone, which is where she's from. And she brings back, I believe it's her nephew. And her nephew is Hyacinth's love interest in the book. So that's why she has to leave and come back. But I love it when Charlotte just kind of looks at her and doesn't really say anything. But Danbury gets it. And she's like, thank you. I was like, oh my God. So then letting go. And this is when Sophie overhears Anthony and Benedict. She lets go again. This is also when John dies and Francesca finds him at the end of this episode.
Oh God.
I knew it was coming, Meg. I knew, like, as soon as we got into like the beginning of episode 6 and John mentions he has a headache, I'm like, okay, so it is John that's dying. That was my guess, that he was going to be the one killed off in this season. Oh my God. I was watching this at like 1 o'clock in the morning and I'm just lying in my bed sobbing. Oh. How did you feel about this whole like chain of events with John?
I thought it was the right decision. I love Francesca's book, but one of my biggest issues with it is I don't think we get enough John. So we hear, oh, we both love John so much, but we didn't get a chance to see that relationship with John develop. And so the fact that we saw John enter in season 3, we had a chance to get to know John in season 4. We saw some, disappointment, I'll say, in the bedroom which like I did not like that choice. I think John should have been an excellent lover because he did recognize Francesca's limitations and lack of knowledge, and I think he could have done better.
The pinnacle.
And the pinnacle, that was actually a really great part of
So fun.
of the first half of the season. And I'm glad that they took his death seriously and that it had consequences, and that I am a little disappointed that we didn't get Michaela and Francesca being closer before Michaela left. I missed the
little bit, but I would have liked more.
I missed the moment of tell me something wicked. I feel like that was such an essential piece of the book. The name of Francesca's book is Tell Me Something Wicked. And when John goes upstairs in the prologue of that book and says, I have a headache, I'm going to go lie down, then Francesca and Michael go for a walk in the rain. And she says, tell me something wicked. And he's such a rake.
Sorry to interrupt you. It's called When He Was Wicked.
He Was Wicked. Sorry.
Wicked. Yeah, I know. But that plot point still.
Yeah. And they're out together and they're talking about salacious things, and then they get back and there's a level of guilt that I wasn't here when he needed me, and I missed that. I missed the connection between Francesca and Michael that didn't seem to translate to Francesca and Michaela. I liked that there was conflict between them. I liked that they didn't always get along. I appreciate some of those editorial decisions, but because I think it did add to more of that, like, now we're stuck in the same house together. We don't get along. We disagree about these things. I loved the way that Francesca overfunctioned for John's actual funeral. I loved sort of the celebration of life side of things. I loved everything they did there. And I loved just, God, I feel like Francesca just stole episode 7. She was
she fucking killed it so hard. To your point, I wish there had been more Francesca and Michaela moments.
Same.
They had some good ones, like the puzzle piece, little heavy-handed on the metaphor of John finishing the ground and Michaela doing the sky. I was like, come on guys, we're trying too hard here. I did like that Michaela's kind of like, I'm chaos. He likes it. And she's like, but I don't. And then they kind of have a moment of like, you know what? Like, we could be fine. I wanted more, because then I think it would set the stage more. But like, I don't know offhand the actress who plays Michaela. I fucking love her. She is so good. And for all of that, I'm slightly disappointed I'm not going to get the version of Francesca's story that I know and that I love so much. As I said before, I'm totally open to seeing what they do with it, because if they can make it work emotionally, I don't really give a shit about the logistics of 2 women can't get married. Who said they're going to get married? I don't know. Maybe they're going to be roommates in Scotland. Who fucking knows? Like, I'm going to give them the benefit of doubt to wait and see what happens. But I loved how they started to kind of heal that relationship, and how they were kind of having fun and laughing, so that when John comes in and they're having a grand old time, he's kind of like, this is nice.
Oh,
look, they're having the friends. This is so nice. And we can also see that Michaela's probably feeling some kind of way about Francesca, and that's why she leaves at the end. I don't know if that was clear enough for people who haven't read the book, though.
Yeah, I saw it in just like the way that
Francesca.
Yeah, the way that Francesca just took her hand. Now, you and I earlier in this season, I said I thought I saw sparks between Francesca and Michaela, that like Francesca was uncomfortable around her and maybe didn't understand why, and maybe that's part of the reason that they had these questions about, like, Francesca doesn't know desire in her body. She doesn't know how it feels to have these emotions. And so that way Michaela may be able to sort of take her there in their season. But you didn't read into that at that point. So, you know, was it just Francesca feels overwhelmed by Michaela's chaos versus the quiet that she wants? I think it could have been read both ways, depending on how you read the actress's face. Yeah. It wasn't in the script. It wasn't on the page. It was very much interpretation. So that decision of, does Francesca, because Francesca's more abrupt and more confrontational with Michaela than anyone else in the entire body of work. So I love that decision to have her let go a little bit emotionally in front of Michaela, even if it's just snapping and being angry with her, instead of feeling like she has to hold it together like she does with everyone else. But I could have used a couple longing glances from Michaela to Francesca to set it up better than just like pulling out of her hand and then disappearing.
Do you listen to Good Hang with Amy Poehler at all?
Every once in a while.
Yeah, so she did an episode with, who was her co-star on Parks and Rec, her love interest.
Oh, it was Ben Wyatt, but it was
Oh my God, who's
Adam
the
Scott.
actor? Adam Scott. The episode with Adam Scott. They were talking about their relationship on Parks and Rec, and I don't remember which one of them said it, but they said the third most important person in Ben and Leslie's relationship was the camera, because cameras and how they shoot something help tell the story even more. So in Parks and Rec, it was, how long are you sitting in a two shot? How long are you, like, is the longer glance there? Are we sitting with someone's face? Are we sitting with characters together? Without that, without the camera doing what it does, the relationship on screen can have a completely different meaning. For the most part in this show, I think the camera work and the cinematography is phenomenal in terms of storytelling. Because the longing glances with Sophie and Benedict, and how the camera on like a crane or a dolly is pulling back, and we see Benedict on top of stairs and Sophie at the bottom of the stairs. Like, it's beautiful camera work that really, really, really helps augment the emotions that the actors are playing without dialogue. And to your point, I would have liked that a little bit more with Francesca and Michaela. I think it happened a couple times. Like, there was when, I think it was after the funeral, when Francesca takes Michaela's hand and Michaela's kind of like,
yeah, that was when
uncomfortable,
Francesca said,
weird.
like, please stay in London.
Yeah, that was after the funeral then.
Yeah.
Like, that had a moment, and I was like, oh, this camera work is good. We get to see the close-up on the hand, the close-up on the face, the two shot of them sitting together on this little love seat. The longing glances could have been a little bit more, even if it was like, you know, you're pulling away as Francesca like gets up to leave her room, but the camera stays on Michaela's face.
Yes.
Like something like that, I feel, because that, I need to look up this actress's name, because her face is so expressive. Both of them, Francesca and Michaela. Like, I'm such a fan of their work.
While you look that up, I'll say the scene where Michaela's character is doing the dance and showing, like, this is the stag, and then we're gonna spin, and then we're switching directions. That was such a light moment, and that could have been an excellent place for just like having her gaze track a little bit longer. Or when, you know, when they switch partners and Francesca switches partners, to have Michaela just watch Francesca dance with someone else. Like, there could have been just those little moments of longing, of pining, of something that's off limits. And I think that's what works so well in the original, in the book format of this, is that that's his basically best friend's wife. You know, that's his cousin's wife. And then Michael has to step into the role of the earldom, and he feels like he's taking over John's entire life. He's now the Earl of Kilmartin. Unless Francesca keeps the baby, which she loses. You know, like, there's so much more tension there because Michael has taken over. And I'm so curious to see if any of that comes to light in, is it next season? Is it 2 seasons?
Who knows? They haven't announced it yet.
No?
So Francesca's played by Hannah Dodd. Michaela's played by Masali Baduza. Yeah, because again, if we're going back to like endings, beginnings, society versus like these interpersonal relationships, this is when, like, and I definitely want to talk more about Violet and Marcus, but she's like, we need to pause this a little bit because this is big drama. Totally get that. I love at the funeral when Francesca's like, have a biscuit. And their family's like, somebody else can do the biscuits. And Sophie's like, let me do the biscuits. She's like, I am perfectly capable of handing out biscuits. And I love that Eloise steps up. She goes, let's all have a biscuit. What have you always wondered? What's in this? Ginger, flour, maybe a little bit of salt. It's like, I loved
Eloise is so good at reading the room.
Yeah, but when Francesca has her moment of, I need to stay calm because I am pregnant. Like, oh my God, her face. And then she has to submit to that examination. Oh my God, I loved Benedict in that scene. So from my understanding is she was never pregnant. She just thought she was. But in the book, I believe she does have a miscarriage after John's death.
Yes.
Is that kind of how you read it too? I couldn't quite see when I was first watching. I'm like, was she not pregnant to begin with?
I couldn't tell.
Yeah.
In the book, she had a miscarriage. In the book, she had blood on the seat, right? So it wasn't like graphic, but it was visible.
Yeah.
And then like Janet, the mom, like called Michael and was like, Francesca had a miscarriage, please come. And he's like, what can I do? I can't be there. I can't be in the room with her. I can't, you know, and it's so much tension. God.
So this is also the episode where, I think this is where Violet kind of says to Benedict, like, you guys really love each other. Choose carefully. Benedict, you're a lot like me, whereas Anthony is very much like your father, which I loved because in Queen Charlotte, we got to see a young Violet and, you know, have her be kind of like footloose, fancy free. Her mom hated that. She was so much like her dad and that she was like a little bit wild, a little bit fun. So, but again, this was just like another thing of like people changing their minds in almost what seemed too quick because it was a lot of back and forth, even with Violet. Do it, don't do it, do it, don't do it, do it, because you're like me. I was like, I wanted like one switch there.
I was okay with that one.
Yeah.
For two reasons. One, she had just seen a child get widowed. Right? And I think that may have given her some perspective about Francesca found the love of her life and it slipped away from her. And then Benedict said, I love her and I can't be with her. And so I think that combination of having just gone to her son-in-law's funeral and seeing her own son grieving, because when she was saying, don't do it, don't follow her, don't go to her room, don't do it, she thought it was just flirtation. She thought they were just hooking up. Like she didn't realize love was involved. And as soon as the word love crossed Benedict's lips, Violet's entire demeanor changed.
I think that's such a great point about seeing Francesca widowed, because the same thing happened to Violet. She lost her first love. And, you know, even though it happened
very suddenly, same.
Yeah, it happened to Francesca at a much younger age than Violet. And I loved when Francesca yelled at Violet. Okay, so, you know, Violet is saying something along the lines of like, you know, it's fine. Like, you'll be, you know, this is this. And Francesca just loses it. She goes, you have 8 reminders of the love of your life. You have 8 children. I have nothing of John left. I couldn't give that to him. I couldn't give him children, and I have 0 reminder of him. Oh my God, Hannah Dodge, you're a fucking queen.
Devastating.
Oh my God.
And just like the way that Violet just takes her in and you see Francesca's face over her shoulder and they slump to the floor. God.
Cannot. It was so good. Okay.
Yeah.
So, because I love where we leave all those people. Then episode 7 ends. So they have like, Michaela says to Francesca, like, that funeral was boring. That's not a celebration. John would want to be celebrated. This is how we do it in Scotland. So Francesca at first is like, no, this is proper. We do this. And then she's like, no, you know what? Let's celebrate. They tell stories. They raise a glass. Michaela teaches everybody like the Scottish dances with the stag and they all have fun. So great.
Can I just really quickly, how do neither John nor Michaela have any Scottish accent whatsoever? I know that they're going back and forth to London, but like they're Scottish.
No, so somebody did ask this on social media. Okay, I saw this. So
thank you.
Granted, Bridgerton is not an accurate history, but from what I read, at this point in history, this was after the fall of Culloden, which is in part of what's in Outlander. So at this point, like, this is where you always have like Scottish people in historicals that are like, screw you, Sassenach, like, you will never rule us. England had kind of conquered Scotland and replaced a lot of their nobility with their own.
Got it.
So that was kind of one of the reasons that I saw that they don't have Scottish accents, is they're probably English or at least educated in London. And that's just like a historical seat that they took over from a Scottish person.
Thank you.
Yeah. Who knows? That is what I read for that. But yeah, I kind of wish they had some Scottish accents. There's a guy,
because the only person who has a cool accent that isn't just like a straight British accent is Alfie.
Yeah. Oh my God, Alfie came back. I was so happy when Alfie came back.
I'm so glad to see Alfie.
He's like, Sophie. So this is, you know, where, because Sophie wanted to go back and work for the new Lady Penwood, Cressida, so that she could be back with her family. But because of all the delays, Alfie's like, I'm so sorry. She's hired someone else. There's no job for you now. Sorry about it, Sophie. Should have made some decisions.
Should or get off the pot, okay, yeah. Sophie? Like, sleep with Benedict or don't sleep with Benedict. Like, move out or don't move out. Get a new job or don't get a new job.
So to end episode 7, this is one of the creative decisions that I didn't like. So how Benedict finds out that Sophie is the lady in silver. Sophie throughout the episode is kind of she can't find her mom's necklace. And people are like, where is it? What are we doing? And Benedict is in his room and he finds it on the floor because that is where they slept together. A servant didn't find that on the floor? What are we doing? But also he finds the necklace and he goes back and he starts flipping through all of his artwork and he's like, I drew that necklace. I'm like, really? Because granted, in the book, it's not like, it feels more drama at least. He goes to find her and she's playing with Hyacinth and the Bridgerton cousins. They're playing blind man's bluff, so she's blindfolded and all he sees is the lower half of her mouth. And he's like, I recognize that mouth. Like, that must be her. So in the book, like, it's kind of corny, but at least there was a big dramatic reveal because then he gets angry with her.
Yes, I wanted that. I wanted him to be able to say, you didn't trust me with that information. And by the time they got to the conversation about that, they were already in his room getting back together. I wanted there to be a confrontation of, you knew that I was looking for this person, you didn't reveal yourself, and then she can say, I was frustrated, annoyed, disappointed that you didn't recognize me. And then I also didn't want you to be disappointed when you realized that this woman that you supposedly fell for is just a maid, right? Yeah. And we also, like, with the accusations being thrown at her, she was pretending, what's the word? She was imitating nobility, which apparently is a crime in this world. I didn't read that in the book, but it is here because that's one of the things that that Araminta levels against her in court is imitating nobility. So if Benedict had been spiteful and she didn't know if he would be, then he could have said, you are not nobility. I fell in love with this woman that I talked to for 20 minutes, which is unlikely, right? But okay, but I know that you imitated nobility and that's a crime and it could have been dangerous for her. And I think that would have been more interesting to play that out before sending her to jail. I loved that happened. I love that it went, Benedict talks to Violet. He goes to find Sophie. He discovers she's the same woman in silver. They have a fight. And then Sophie goes to jail. I liked that progression so much better than, oh, now we're going to have this conversation, but it's already been decided everything's fine. Like, there were no stakes to that realization in this version of it.
I liked the fight that they had because Benedict's like, how dare you? Sophie's like, how dare you? But also when Sophie leaves and she gets arrested, it makes sense that, like, Benedict doesn't immediately follow up on where she is because they just had a fight and that's why she's gone. So for this to be like, oh, it's her. And I do love that Posey did go over to Sophie and was like, hi, love you so much because I'm the coolest person ever. You need to, like, skedaddle, whatever. And that Sophie kind of, like, pumps her up a little bit, like, you're cool. So that when Araminta, being the conniving woman that she is, says to Posey, like, oh, you know, you're this. And she's like, oh, yeah. And this is where Sophie is. And Araminta's like, thank you very much. Like, that moment, like, I liked that. So that when what I had hoped would happen would Sophie would kind of, like, leave because she's so angry with Benedict and she's confused and there's all this, like, emotional drama, to then get arrested and have that end. Like, the stakes are fucking up here. As it was, it kind of just felt like she just walked outside and was like, you, in the jail bus.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, like, the Araminta going to, or, you know, Varley saying that Sophie works at Bridgerton house, Araminta going to call on them, looking for Sophie. That all happened in episode 6. Early in episode 6.
Yeah.
And then Posey doesn't go until episode 7, which we know from, like, the diary passing and John's funeral is, like, at least a week or two.
Mm-hmm.
So my thought with Posey escaping and going to her was, like, that should have happened in episode 6. That should have been one of those moments of, like, Araminta comes and calls. Violet says, I understand now why you want to leave. Posey comes and says, you need to go. And she might be pregnant, right? So that, to me, would have raised the stakes even more than, oh, I'm already leaving. Don't worry about it. Like, it felt like it was too late for it to matter. Versus if we had done that in episode 6 instead of episode 7, then the stakes would have been like, I gotta go. Whereas by this point, it was like, well, I'm already planning to go to America. It's fine. It was over. You know, like, it didn't matter anymore, except she was trying to leave to go to America right then, which is when she got. and that's why Benedict couldn't follow her, because he went to go to the ships, right? Like, and
Yeah.
I liked that sort of adjustment of it being a bigger deal for her to be leaving. I appreciated that decision, but I think that the order could have elevated the stakes in an even higher way if it had been, Sophie sees Araminta in Bridgerton house. Violet recognizes that Araminta is looking for her. Posey comes and warns her, and she has to say, "Am I pregnant?" And then when she realizes she's not, great, let me go get the job at Penwood House, or let me start working on the job at Penwood House. And then John dies, and I would have liked to have seen someone say, "Can you just stay through the funeral?" And that would have been the reason why she lost the job at Penwood House. I feel like some of that was implied but not explicit in a way that would have made us feel more torn about Sophie's loyalties to Bridgerton House versus her own self-preservation instincts.
Ooh, I like that. Good job, Meg. I like that as a change. I do love, so when episode 8 opens, the final one, Sophie's been arrested, but I love that Benedict goes to the servants and is like, "Where is she?" And they're like, "She's got a job. She's good." And then he's like, "No, like, where is she?" And they realize that he like loves her. And what's her friend's name? Hazel? She's like, "Actually, she doesn't have another job. She's going to America." And then he's like, "Great, I'm going to go find her." And then that's when Varley, I believe, comes over and is like, "She's actually been arrested." And this is the second thing I really
Varley goes to Penwood House. Varley doesn't go to Bridgerton. She goes to Penwood House. She finds Alfie, and she's like, "Is that an automatic spit roaster?" Which I just love that
I love
line.
Varley. She's so fun.
And then Alfie goes to Bridgerton House.
Yes, you are
correct. He's the one that finds Hazel, and then Hazel's the one that tells Benedict and all of it. So it's like this, and I love that there's like this gossip network of the servants trying to save another servant, and not necessarily get
everything,
and not need to get their bosses involved. It's like they would have taken care of it. And that idea of like, when Sophie's in trouble, she doesn't think to call Benedict, she thinks to call Alfie still, right? Like that, I loved that choice.
Yeah, I do like though that the person, the magistrate or somebody who works at the prison, kind of, Sophie's like, "Send word," and he's like, "Just be careful, because whoever you ask for help, that puts them in a bad position." And that explains why nobody really knew where she was. At first, which makes sense. But this is the other thing I really didn't like about the season, is we didn't get the jail scene that I wanted.
I wanted the jail scene.
I wanted it so badly because it was so dramatic. And because for those who don't remember, who haven't read it, in the book, Violet and Benedict go to the prison. Araminta is there, and they have like a knockdown, drag him out fight in the prison where Araminta gets punched, which I really liked. But it's in the prison that Violet strikes a deal with Araminta to be like, she's not illegitimate. She's legitimate daughter of the Earl's cousin, not the Earl itself, fine, but like a cousin or something. And you're gonna like, we know about the will, this is the money, like we're gonna leave here and you're never gonna talk shit about her again. We're done.
We won't even take the dowry, which is fine. Just like, that's your payoff, basically. But when I was saying earlier, I feel like they took that jail scene and they split it up into 3 scenes. So it was like, there was the jail scene and Araminta was there, and then she left, and then we went to the magistrate. Right? Like, and Benedict and Violet didn't make it to jail. They went to the magistrate, and they walked in and they were like, "I am the sibling of the Viscount and the cousin of the Duke," and blah, 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 blah. Right? And then the actual like reckoning moment was at Lady Danbury's ball, at the Queen's ball for Lady Danbury, rather. And so it was like stretched in 3 different ways, so that way Alice Mondrich could be the one that coordinated her being in the room, which like was fucking unnecessary. But we need to have characters do things.
But we didn't even get, like, what I loved in the book was the argument that the magistrate, or he's just kind of like, it was almost like a tennis match. Like, you stole what? I didn't steal anything. I stole the shoe clips, Mom. She's this.
Yeah, Posey wasn't even there.
No, and
Posey didn't say it publicly anywhere. Posey never came out, and she just said to Araminta, "I stole the shoe clips," and then it was not mentioned again. It wasn't.
And Posey didn't get adopted by Violet. Now, granted, they gave Posey a husband by the end of the season, which good for Posey. We love her. But I wanted the jail scene to be the big climactic moment, to your point, rather than we're in the prison. Hey, please release her into my custody. And we take her back to Bridgerton
court.
House.
That wasn't even in the jail.
Yeah, it was in the court. And then like, now we need to get like a barrister, solicitor, lawyer, whatever. We have to prove this. We have to do this. And then
please release her into my custody, right? Okay, release her into my custody. And they're like, great, she can't leave Bridgerton house. And then she sneaks out to go get the will at Penwood house. And I'm like, yo, you are just fucking yourselves over if you get caught here.
I do love, though, that she teamed up with Eloise to go get the will. That was hilarious to me because we've seen them kind of get close through this season.
Yeah.
Eloise is a badass.
And I loved Eloise. Like, I love that Cressida, like, read Mary Wollstonecraft because Eloise wouldn't stop talking about it, and it showed that like Cressida did listen to Eloise even if they had different objectives. I liked that there was a bit of a reparation happening there, that like Cressida wasn't perfect, but Eloise is also recognizing you were in a terrible situation, and I'm sorry I didn't recognize that at the time. Like there was some healing happening there for poor Cressida, because like Cressida didn't make the smartest decisions, but she didn't really have a choice.
Yeah, and this is why I think they're setting up for Eloise next season, personally, was one, this reckoning with Cressida and Eloise, just like Hyacinth has been telling Eloise this season, like, you're a bitch, you think only in yourself. I'm paraphrasing. But for Cressida to be like, yeah, you know, this is what happened, and Eloise to say, yeah, you were sent off to Wales to be with the sheep, and she does say that she read this, and I'm like, great, and they're both kind of recognizing that marriage has actually given you some freedom to get away from your family. And the new Lord Penwood seems like a nice dude. And you get to be in charge of your own house. And, you know, you have status. And yeah, you have to recover from some shit you did in the past, pretending to be Whistledown and the Queen's, like whatever. You have some things to recover from. But you've decorated your house. Yes, it's pink and Eloise is not a fan. But like, you're settling into your next phase of life, and isn't that nice? So I think Eloise seeing that and recognizing that. And she also has a line where she says to Francesca, are you writing all of John's Scottish family about what has happened? And there's so many people to write. And so that's why I definitely think the next season is going to be Eloise, because I think Sir Philip is going to write the family.
And she'll take it off.
Marina has passed. And Eloise is going to see writing letters can be cathartic, and she needs to be more understanding to people. And I think that's where her epistolary storyline is going to start with Philip. That would be my guess.
And I mean, alphabetically, it points to Eloise.
So like I did really like that scene, and but like the finding the will caper was kind of fun, because Alfie and the housekeeper, I forget her name, is like, I heard you guys were here, big hug, let's go find the will. Like that was cute. I just wanted it like before or after. Like the timing was a little bit weird for me, but like I wanted that. Like I loved the caper. But I was like, we're at the magistrate, we're in jail, we're here, we're back, we're not, no. It felt like it kept kind of like doing this in terms of energy when I wanted it to go like this. Climactic.
And I also like, I wanted somebody besides Benedict to be like, did you see the will? Like it felt too convenient for him to be the one that made that statement.
Like, where's Anthony?
Anthony would have been good.
Anthony would have been a good one.
Well, he was only there for like one day of filming, probably, which is why you had like 2 scenes, and then they just had to do that while Jonathan Bailey was in town. But yeah, I didn't think that was the right decision to have Benedict be the one to ask that question. I think it could have been Violet. I think it could have been Alfie. It could have been a lot of different people that it would have made sense. It could have been Posey. It could have been a lot of people that just say like, did you ever see the will? Right? Versus Benedict saying, well, she clearly doesn't like you, so why did you trust her? And it's like, because she was a child. Right? It felt too convenient that Benedict didn't even know that there was a relationship between Araminta and Sophie, and then all of a sudden he's like, well, she doesn't like you, so did you ever see the will of your father? Like, yeah.
And this is why the resolution happening at the ball doesn't. I didn't love it. Now,
it was nice because it mirrored the ball, and she was in a similar dress, and then she gets proposed to at the ball. I didn't love it, but I saw the craft decision to say we're going to bookend with the ball of the beginning of 1 and the end of 8. I see why they made that choice.
Yeah, but do I think it's absolutely hilarious that there was no plan? Like Alice came up with a plan. And as soon as she said, this is the plan, the Bridgertons came in with a completely different plan. And the Queen's like, I see what's actually happening here. Right. But I'm just too amused. Have fun. Go with God. I totally support this. So I did like that, because to me, it is setting the stage for someone like Alice, who I thought was a great this season. I didn't think her storyline was awesome, but I think the actress is great. Yeah. And I liked where they're going with her. But you can see how Danbury is like, yeah, you're not stepping into my shoes, you're creating new shoes. So I could see how they're going to bring Alice in to like machinate, but she's not good at it yet.
Yeah.
They kind of had no plan. That she's like, oh yeah, she's totally a maid. And Violet's like, she's a relative. And the queen's like, sure she is.
Right.
I don't care. This is fun. Have fun. Like I liked that aspect of it, but it just felt a little messy and I didn't quite get like the drama with Araminta. I did like though that as soon as the queen comes in, Violet's like, oh yeah, Araminta, right? And Araminta's like, I can't say no in front of the fucking queen. Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. And here again is where I think that a lot of it was implied. And they could have spent previous parts of this where they were putting in some of that filler and doing the will they won't they game, building those mystery pieces, asking the question of like, wait, you're a child of nobility, did you ever see his will? Like that could have happened in episode 7. Or here's what, okay, now I'm just spitballing.
Tell me more.
I love to do some editing. If Benedict is managing John's estate, which is what they had him do, even though probably Anthony would have done it. They had Benedict do it because he's the character and he's doing
and
the
Anthony's kind of like away and not present.
There. Okay, whatever. Fine. They asked Benedict to come in and manage the estate. And he says something about, John put a dowry in here in case Francesca ever had a baby. And it could have just been like Benedict just mentioning it in passing, or making sure that any future children are taken care of. And then maybe Sophie could have said to Alfie, I never saw my dad's will. And that would have been so much more of Sophie being the protagonist who makes those main character choices versus, oh, I never thought that this woman that hates me might hate me. Like it.
She hates me?
She didn't pay me for 7 years, and I knew that my father loved me, and I never put those. And I mean, she was young, she was in grief. I'm not saying that Sophie did anything wrong, but I think that she was also educated, smart, savvy enough that we didn't need to be handed that by Benedict. It could have been Sophie's decision.
Oh, I do like that. So the episode kind of wraps up with Alice's plan and Violet's plan. They both fail, but the queen's fine with it. So Sophie and Benedict get to be together. He proposes on the dance floor. Michaela leaves, and Francesca's surprised by this. Varley goes back to work for the Featheringtons. That was kind of nice. Michaela leaves. A new Whistledown comes into play. And I was like, this should have started the season.
Yes.
Or been an earlier episode. Because I love the idea of somebody taking on the Whistledown like mantle, but nobody knows who it is. Now, some folks online did comment that Julie Andrews' narration slightly changed. There was like a little bit of a slip in the accent when she was doing her narration in the final episode. So a lot of people are speculating maybe it's Alice, maybe it's one of the servants. Who knows? So I love the idea of someone else taking up Whistledown because it should not be Penelope. I'm just wondering, like, should that have happened? When does she retire? Episode 6 at Cressida's ball. If episode 7, when Sophie gets arrested and that's when the new Whistledown comes out, because I think in the book, isn't it Lady Whistledown that talks about somebody got arrested outside of Bridgerton house?
Yes.
And that's how they find out where Sophie went? Like, I would have loved if they had kept that and 7 had ended with a new Whistledown and that had opened episode 8. Like, because then Araminta is planning to announce Rosamund's engagement at the ball. If that had been in the new Whistledown along with the arrest, like that could have been really cool.
Yeah.
So I love that they did this. I'm so intrigued on who it is because it does bring back a little bit of that intrigue. It means Whistledown has meaning again, which she did not have this season. So I'm kind of excited about that. And then in a post-credit scene, which why was this post-credits?
I have no idea.
You have Sophie and Benedict's wedding. All her friends are there. Happy, happy ending. Yeah. So I do want to talk really quickly about Marcus and Violet.
Yes.
Oh my God. I loved them in the first half. I love them even more the second half. Am I a little sad that like they're not getting married? Yes. But like it makes so much sense that Violet, who has been saying this entire time to her children, get married. Then Francesca loses John. Benedict finds Sophie. She says to Benedict, you are so much like me. She sees Lady Danbury going on an adventure to her home country. Like, I love this for Violet because she was having tea all season with Marcus. But she's like, what am I outside of that? Like, I don't have to do shit that I don't want to. I get to actually... She started a relationship with Marcus because she wanted to. But now she's like, I don't even need a relationship. Like, what do I get to do on top of this? So snaps for Violet. She kills it as always, but she was fabulous season. And I love this choice. Even that, like, I'm schmoopy. I want them to get married, like, because I think they're so nice. But I also just love that she's like, I don't need no man.
And I love that she was like, why can't we keep doing this? Why can't we just like keep sleeping
Yes.
together and have our own houses and we can be independent? And I liked that he pushed back because for this whole time he's been very much like, whatever makes you happy, whatever makes you happy. And then he's like, well, no, I actually want a life with you. And if you don't want that, then maybe we want different things. And I thought that that was such a smart way to end the season because we don't know how far into the future the next season will start. So if it's in 6 months and they haven't been seeing each other, then we have the opportunity for like after Violet has gone through her own self-recognition process, maybe she can choose to go back to Marcus or not. But the fact that she had him this season and she had her own romantic arc and her own growth and her own choice to step away from what felt safe in the marriage mart and choose herself was such good character development.
I was a fan. What I don't really want to see happen, this is just me being picky, is like I don't really want Violet to have like a new man every season kind of deal. I kind of just want her to go back to Aubrey Hall by herself for a little bit because Aubrey Hall, since Edmund died, has not exactly been a happy place for her.
Right.
And technically it's not her house anymore. It's Anthony's. But like, I would like to see her do some of that, or maybe fuck it, go with Lady Danbury, go have a girls trip, y'all. Like that could actually be kind of fun too.
I mean, she still has to see Hyacinth. She still has kids at home, so it's not like she can just fuck off forever, you know. But
yeah, because there's 3 kids left now. Because Francesca's just been widowed, so that's going to take some time. You've got Gregory and Hyacinth, who are almost old enough. But Gregory already has a crush on someone, which is what his book is kind of based on. Is like this girl he has a crush on, and then I think he ends up falling for her best friend. I think that's what his.
I never read that one. I stopped at Francesca.
It's not, they're not my favorite, but like I'm pretty sure that's one of them is On the Way to the Wedding. I think that might be Gregory's book. But like the crush that he has, I think is setting up his story for he's in love with this girl who's betrothed to someone else, and I think he ends up falling for her best friend. Don't quote me on that. I'm probably wrong. Any other like final thoughts on the season? Things you liked, things you didn't like, random thoughts.
I think my favorite editorial choice was the choice to bring Francesca's prologue to like ahead of season. So we could really have a chance to live with John, to mourn John, to see the way that losing somebody and being in grief impacts other people's decisions. I think that was my favorite thing about the whole season. You know, I wasn't such a huge fan of like, oh, it's a Cinderella story, like as a plot device. I do feel like the Cinderella story kind of got half forgotten by the second half of it because we lost the evil stepmother and the stepsisters and all that. And I was fine with that because I didn't want it to be too heavy-handed. But the choice to allow Francesca moments to grieve and then we have to wait 2 years. I loved that decision.
Yeah.
What about you? How did you feel overall?
Just some final thoughts that I liked. I kind of had just like a bullet note. I love in the wedding scene that Alfie is the one that walks Sophie down the aisle. Super cute. I wanted more Kate and Anthony. Like, I know it has to do with casting and cost that the other siblings don't show up. There needs to be more of them, please. I want more. I love that we see Benedict going back to art with the sketch of the cottage, but also the painting of Sophie as the lady in silver unmasked at the very end. Love that. I loved Alice saying to the queen at the ball, like, you are missing all the good gossip. And I love that. That's why I really want the queen to kind of be like this Greek chorus commenting on action rather than being part of it, because she gets to observe the good gossip. The other thing that I was laughing about, because I saw this on Threads, and it's people going, okay, well, if now like Sophie and Benedict are married, are they going to hire all of the servants to go work for them? Like Alfie and Hazel and the housekeeper whose name I don't remember. But people are also like, would you want to work for your best friend? Like, wouldn't that be weird for Alfie to be a servant to Sophie? So I'm like, maybe they should stay in separate houses so that they don't have that weird like boss-employer relationship on top of being friends like for her entire life. Yeah. So I just thought that was funny. And I also just want to say I really love, there was a meme that was going around how this season of Bridgerton is exactly like Heated Rivalry. Did you see this?
Yes, I did.
Oh my god, heated rivalry in Bridgerton season 4. An Asian main character falls for a bisexual white boy, but they are kept apart by the expectations of others, and there's a cottage.
Pretty much.
Huge fan. I do like it. All right, that was Bridgerton season 4. Meg, what did you ship the most about this season of Bridgerton?
Well, I just went on a rant about how much I love Francesca's story, so I'm going to say Violet's arc. Violet going from everyone must be married, you must follow these societal expectations, to even I'm not going to get married again, even though I have strong feelings for this person. Violet to me just stole so much of this in the best way, in a supporting way, not a stealing way, but in like she nailed the arc that she needed to have for the season. What about you? What did you ship the most this season?
I think it's this concept of women at different stages of life experiencing love in different ways. So Violet was this second chance love, but also the rejection of the structure of love that she had only experienced up until then. With Francesca, it was first love ending in tragedy. With Sophie, it was this idea of like class and equity and stepping beyond circumstance into a relationship. And then I think even with like Eloise and Hyacinth to some extent, this idea of relationships can be more than what society tells us they are in terms of expectation or outcome. They can be supportive. You can feel good about them. It can allow you to grow. Same thing. It shows up with Cressida too. Like in many ways, the relationships for women in this society are prisons, and they are escapism. So I just really liked how they have all these different versions of it. And it makes me really intrigued to see what they're going to do for not only Eloise's season, but Francesca. Like, where are they going to take that? How are they going to take Eloise? Because up until this time, we've definitely not seen Eloise as maternal. And for those who've read the books, you know children get involved in her story. So we shall see. Fantastic. Well, that wraps up Bridgerton season 4. What did y'all think? Share in the comments. If you're checking us out on YouTube, check us out on social media. Tell us your thoughts. And while you're doing that, if you want to head on over to your podcast provider of choice, leave us a rating, subscribe, leave us a review. We'd greatly appreciate it. It would make us feel like we are queen of the ton, the diamond of the season, as it were. So now, Meg, what are you shipping?
This week, I am sticking to a Julia Quinn theme. Julia Quinn has really reopened the doors to historical romance. Brought it back to the forefront. It really is sort of on the decline in terms of sales. And she's not just using it to sell her books, even though her publisher is like, let's put out 1 million new editions of this that go along with the Netflix series, which, to be fair, is what Heated Rivalry should have had. Okay. But Julia Quinn is also doing an incredible job of using her platform to promote other historical authors. And I learned about this from my friend Sarah, who writes under the pen name Elizabeth Everett. She has written in historical. She's had to pivot away from historical because of the way that historical sales are going. We'll have her on probably next fall to talk about that process of going from historical to romantasy, because historical is having some big issues in sales. But Julia Quinn has a Kickstarter, and that's what I'm shipping this week. Julia Quinn has a Kickstarter. It is called Julia Quinn's Curated Romance Book Box, IQ Editions. And it's taking all of the several authors that she already loves and several authors that she has relationships with, and either republishing some of their favorite books with decorated edges and illustrated end papers and soft touch hardcovers with foil and spot gloss UV. I don't know what that means. I'm reading it off the Kickstarter page. But it's like they're reprinting Lord of Scoundrels special edition. And I think Lord of Scoundrels is one of the foundational, definitive historical spaces. Like, if you want a character who will literally like pull a gun on her partner and shoot him in the arm, you need Jessica, right?
Oh, I love that.
She's incredible. She's a great character. And then there are also, there's an Eloisa James book in the first box. Alyssa Cole, Extraordinary Union. Also an excellent book set during the Civil War. So historical, but not Regency historical, which I think is important. So every month they're going to be rolling these out. Eloisa James, September, Alyssa Cole, October, Loretta Chase, November. But it has not yet been funded. It has 24 days to go. So by the time this goes live, it'll have 23 days to go. So if you are a fan of historical romance and you want to like sort of support these authors, see the resurgence, benefit from Julia Quinn's platform, get some of these books into your hands, we'll put a link to the Kickstarter in the show notes, because I feel like historical still has so much to give. And we've sort of lost that in the indie space. And if you love Bridgerton, go support other historical romance, not just Julia Quinn.
I love that. That sounds very fun.
It is.
I'm
so,
intrigued.
and also thank you to Sarah for bringing that to my attention and standing outside the public library ranting about it for 20 minutes with me. Nikki, what are you shipping this week?
Oh my goodness. You want to talk? I was just thinking, because you have your next book coming out very soon. And for those who don't know Meg's writing, she is a prolific writer. But if you want to hear about a long book, A.J. Sherwood's latest release called The Regressor King clocks in at over 800 pages.
Oh my gosh.
Holy shit, did this book blow my mind. So The Regressor King, it opens with this king who has died in battle fighting the demon king, and he ends up in paradise, and an angel is like, congratulations, you have finished the task that your soul was given on earth. You get to go to paradise. And he's like, what about my companion, who this man that he loved in life, but they were never actually together? What about him? And they're like, well, he hasn't finished his task. He won't be there. So King says to the angel, I would like to negotiate, please.
Oh, I love
paradise is not paradise without him. And Angel's like, what do you mean? You need to go to paradise. And he's like, fuck no, I don't. So gods get involved in angels. And he says, I'm going to go back. Send me back. I think it's 3 years and 1 month in time to before I could become king, because he was not born king. He was like a distant cousin of the royal family who gets adopted and later becomes king, has to lead their armies against the demon king. His partner, oh my God, what is his partner's name? I want to call him Edward, was killed the day before he fought the demon king in battle. So he goes, send me back to just before I was adopted into the royal family, because not only am I going to save this man I love and hopefully actually be with him in this version, because we were not previously, I'm going to make everything better in the second go around. So the gods are like, challenge accepted. So they send him back in time, and he knows what is coming because he's already lived it. So he starts thinking like, how am I going to fix this? How am I going to get this? And he's always battling, going, shit, I gave him peppermints. I shouldn't know that he likes peppermints yet. Fuck. So he's trying to negotiate all these things.
I love the time travel things. God, I love it.
It's so good. And like the gods are involved. Obviously the Demon King, there's political intrigue, and it's trying to build relationships again, but different, and trying to stop certain catastrophes from happening. But then of course, things don't go the way that they should. That events that weren't supposed to happen for 3 years happen right away. And he goes, well, fuck. Like, and his running joke is, I never wrote anything down. My partner, this man that I wanted to be with, he was the one that always wrote things down, but he doesn't know I'm living this life again. Shit. So it's really fun. It's really romantic. It is a huge read, but I loved it. So I'm currently down in Florida, and I spent a couple days at Disney, a couple days at Universal. So this was the book I was reading on my phone, as you know, on the bus system from park to park. So I think I finished it in a day, because I was like, God, I refuse to put this book down. It's so good. It's funny. It's romantic. It's hot as hell. Go read The Regressor King by A.J. Sherwood. It's on Kindle Unlimited. It's fucking fantastic. And that is it for us this week. A few gentle reminders: if you'd like to support the show, head on over to our social media. We are at First Dates and Soulmates on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and the YouTube. Leave us a rating, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts from. Head on over to YouTube or Substack or Spotify. Leave us a comment on this episode. We love to hear from you. Thank you so much to all of you folks who leave us comments. And if you'd like to support the show financially, you can check out our merch. It's listed at TeePublic in the show notes, or subscribe to the show on Substack. Subscribe for 1 month. Subscribe for many months. We're just so happy that you are here. We love you so much, soulmates. Coming up next week, we are deep diving into second chance romance and what makes this a trope that we love, that we hate, and what has to happen for it to be a good one. That is coming up next week. We will see you then. Bye.